I only wanted to wash my old car. But when I plugged the flash drive my daughter-in-law left behind into the PR Int shop computer, the owner leaned close to the screen. He whispered, "You shouldn't have seen this." From that second, every call, every glance, every doorway in my 40-year home suddenly had a different lock. My name is Marjorie Hale. I am 62 years old, and for 17 of those years, I have been a widow. My hands, which spent 4 decades tailoring high-end garments, are now mostly used for pulling weeds in my Minneapolis garden and balancing my checkbook. I live on Hale Avenue, in the house my husband and I bought when Daniel was just a toddler. Daniel is 39 now. He moved back in 3 years ago, bringing his wife, Brianna, who is 34, and my granddaughter, Sophie, who just turned 9. Sophie is the one pure thing in this house, a bright spark of uncomplicated joy. I guard her fiercely, and this story, my story, is not about any harm coming to her. It is about the others. It was supposed to be a temporary arrangement. Just 6 months. "Mom?" Daniel had said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Just until I get back on my feet. The company is restructuring." 3 years is not 6 months. The first thing I noticed was the utility bills. The water usage tripled. The thermostat was always cranked up to a suffocating heat. My grocery runs doubled. I started pulling from my savings, the money I had earmarked for a new sewing machine, then the money for property taxes. Then Brianna started to reorganize. It began subtly. My mother's china vase was moved from the mantel to a high shelf in the dining room, where it's safer. Then the pantry locks were changed, just to keep Sophie out of the snacks. "Marjorie," Brianna said, with that bright, tight smile that never reached her eyes. "Last spring, they took the master bedroom. It's just more practical for the 3 of us, with our schedules." Brianna explained, not asked. "All that space is wasted on just you." I moved into the small guest room, the one with the slanted ceiling, carrying my late husband's dresser with me. Daniel just faded into the background of his own wife's ambition. He'd come home late, well past 10 o'clock most nights, carrying the stale, sour scent of beer. His promises to help out with the bills, to handle the yard work, evaporated by morning. He was a ghost in my house, leaving doors open and lights on, contributing nothing but weight and apologies. I am a seamstress by trade. I work with patterns, with precise measurements, with the quiet logic of how pieces fit together. You do not survive in that world without noticing details. So, I started documenting. I bought a simple black ledger from the office supply store. I noted the date the pantry lock was changed. I stapled copies of the skyrocketing utility bills inside. I took photographs, time-stamped by my old phone, of my furniture being moved into the basement to make room for theirs. I noted the dates Daniel came home after midnight. It was not a plan. It was a habit. It was the only control I had left. This brings me to last Saturday. My car, a reliable 10-year-old sedan, needed an oil change. While waiting in the service bay, I decided to clean out the passenger side, tucked deep in the center console, beneath old receipts and a dried-out pen. My fingers brushed against a small piece of plastic. It was a bright red flash drive. It had a neat white label, printed by a machine BK Clients. Brianna? I had to stop at North Star Print anyway. I was working on a new dress pattern for Sophie and needed the schematic printed on large format paper. The shop is quiet. run by a young man named Evan Morales. He's always been polite, focused, good at his job. While he loaded the heavy paper roll, I slid the red USB onto the counter. "Evan?" I asked, my voice steady. "I'm not sure what's on this. It might be my granddaughter's school project. Could I just use one of your stations to check it?" He waved me over to the customer terminal. I pushed the drive into the port. It wasn't school projects. It was a list of files. My stomach, which had felt hollow for months, suddenly turned to ice. The files were all PDFs. Quitclaim draft. POA final. Appraisal Hale Ave. Hale Avenue. My house. Evan was walking back to the counter when he glanced at my screen. He stopped. He didn't just look. He leaned in, his eyes scanning the file names. He looked up from the monitor, not at my face, but past my shoulder, toward the front window, as if checking for who was outside. He turned back to me, and his voice was low, almost inaudible. "Marjorie," he said, using my name for the first time since I'd known him. "You shouldn't have seen this. You shouldn't have seen this," Evan repeated, his voice barely a breath. He pulled his own chair over, shielding the monitor with his body. "But now that you have, you need to be safe." My blood pressure, usually low, felt like it was pushing against my eardrums. "What is it?" He clicked the first file, quitclaim draft. It was a legal document. It was a deed to my house, the one on Hale Avenue, adding Daniel Hale as a joint tenant with rights of survivorship. My signature line was blank, but his was typed in, "Waiting." "This one," Evan said, his finger tapping the screen. "Gives your son your house if something happens to you. Or," he added, "it makes it his house too, right now." He clicked the next file, POA final, power of attorney. A complete financial power of attorney, broad and sweeping, giving Brianna control over my bank accounts, my retirement funds, my right to sell property. My name was already typed into every relevant field. All it needed was a signature they were clearly planning to get. "And this," he clicked again, "is the why." A spreadsheet opened. Care costs. It was a meticulous, chilling ledger of fabricated expenses. 24-hour in-home nursing at $40 an hour, physical therapy, 5 times a week, memory care consultations. It listed thousands of dollars a month in potential costs, all designed to prove one thing: that I was an expensive burden, that my assets needed to be liquidated for my own care. My hands were flat on the cheap laminate counter. I could feel the grit on its surface. I was not sick. I had not seen a doctor. Outside of my annual checkup, in 3 years. "Marjorie, look at this." Evan opened the last file, a draft email. The recipient was blank, but the text was complete. It was from Brianna. "Once the POA is signed, we move fast. The appraisal is set. We need to sell before December. She doesn't remember much these days anyway. We just tell her the doctor's orders and guide her hand. She'll sign." "She'll sign," I whispered. The words tasted like ash. They were building a cage for me, and the bars were made of my own signature. Evan Morales looked me in the eyes. He was not the polite young man from 10 minutes ago. He was an ally. "We are going to handle this," he said. He took the red drive from the port. "I am making 2 secure, encrypted copies of this entire drive. One for you, one for your lawyer. Then I am sealing the original in an evidence bag." He worked quickly, his movements precise. The pattern maker in me appreciated his efficiency. He printed one set of screenshots of the file directory and the email draft, took them to the back, and I heard the heavy thud of a timestamp machine. "My lawyer?" I said, the words catching in my throat. "Evan? I can't. How can I do this? What can I do that doesn't turn me into the person who reports her own son?" He stopped typing and looked at me, his expression hardening with a resolve I lacked. "Marjorie, they are not treating you like a mother. They are treating you like a mark. You are not reporting your son. You are protecting your life." He scribbled a name on a business card. Ariel Novak, North Loop Legal. She specializes in elder law and financial exploitation. She is discreet, and she is a shark. She's the best. He picked up his desk phone, dialed, and spoke in a low voice. "Ariel, it's Evan at North Star. I have a priority case. Elder financial fraud, in progress." "Yes. She's here now." He listened. "She can be there at 1 o'clock. He hung up and pushed the card toward me. "Your appointment is in 2 hours. He handed me a small, sealed manila envelope containing one of the copied drives and the time-stamped screenshots. He held up the second copy. "I will have this delivered directly to Ms. Novak's office, along with the sealed original. They will be waiting for you." I fumbled for my wallet. "How much do I owe you for the copies?" "For the pattern." "Nothing," he said. "Not for this. Now, listen to me. This is the most important part. Do not confront them. Do not let Brianna or Daniel know you found this. Your behavior cannot change. Go home. Put the flash drive back in the car console, exactly where you found it. They must believe they are still in control." He taught me a principle in that moment. Maintain the scene. Let them walk into the trap they built. Gather the administrative proof. I drove home. The 10-minute drive felt like an hour. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the wheel at 10 and 2, just like I was 16 again. I pulled into the driveway. The garden I had planted was overgrown with weeds I had not had the heart to pull. I sat in the car for a full minute. Then, I picked up the red flash drive. "BK Clients." I wiped my fingerprints off it with a tissue from the glove box. I opened the center console, tucked it deep beneath the old receipts, and pushed it down until it settled in the exact place I had found it. I got out of the car and looked at my home. The paint was peeling on the front porch. Brianna's expensive, oversized SUV was parked where my husband's car used to be. It was my house. It had been for 40 years. And I understood, with a cold, sharp clarity, that I was now going to have to fight for it. That evening, the smell of lighter fluid and charring meat filled the backyard. Brianna was hosting a barbecue. It was my backyard, my grill. But she had invited a dozen of her friends, people whose expensive shoes dug into the lawn I'd spent 20 years cultivating. I sat in my usual wicker chair on the patio, holding a glass of water, watching them. One of her friends, a woman in a linen dress, clinked glasses with Brianna and laughed. "I just adore what you've done with your mother-in-law's house. The new staging in the living room is brilliant." Brianna smiled that tight smile. "We're just making it comfortable for everyone." My house. Not my home. My mother-in-law's house. A property. A holding. The words from the email draft echoed in my head. Sell before December. The patio door slid open, and Daniel came out. He looked tired. His shoulders slumped. But he was holding a single piece of paper and a pen. He walked over to me, avoiding my eyes, looking at a spot on the patio floor. "Hey, Mum," he said, his voice too casual. "Listen, Brianna was just organizing the bills, and there's some temporary authorization form, just so we can handle the utilities and things online for you. Make it easier." He held out the pen. I looked at the paper. It was folded, but I could see the dense, small print of a legal document. It was not a utility form. Before I could answer, Brianna was at my elbow, a fresh, full glass of red wine in her hand. "Daniel, don't bother Mom with that now," she cooed, swapping my water for the wine. She placed a hand on my shoulder, a gesture that looked like affection, but felt like a restraint. "The doctor wants you to rest. Remember, no stressing about paperwork. We can handle it." I looked at the wine. The doctor's orders. Just as the email had said. I let my eyelids flutter, letting a small, confused frown cross my face. I looked from Daniel to Brianna. "Oh, it's just all these people," I said, gesturing vaguely. "My head is swimming a bit. Can't it wait? Let me look at it in the morning." "Daniel?" "My eyes are tired." Daniel flinched, relieved to be dismissed. "Yeah, sure. Mum. Of course. Tomorrow is fine." Brianna's fingers tightened on my shoulder for just a fraction of a second before she pulled away, her smile plastered on. "Of course, Marjorie. Enjoy the party. Later." Sophie, sticky with barbecue sauce, ran over and pressed a drawing into my lap. It was a picture of our house, with a huge yellow sun and 2 stick figures outside. One tall, one small. "That's you and me, Grandma," she said. My throat closed. I pulled her close, smelling the smoke and the sweet scent of shampoo in her hair. "It's beautiful. Sweetie. Did you finish your spelling homework for Monday?" I kept my voice light, pulling her into a conversation about school, about her friends, about anything that was not this. I would not let their poison touch her. I would not let her be a witness or a weapon. The party wound down late. I went to my small guest room and lay on top of the covers, fully dressed. The house fell quiet, but it was a tense, waiting silence. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hall, then Daniel's muffled voice from their room. I slipped out of bed, my feet silent on the hardwood floor I knew by heart. I stood in the darkness of the hallway, by the linen closet, close enough to hear. "No, I told you. She said tomorrow." Daniel was whispering, an edge of frustration in his voice. "We just have to ease her into it." A pause. I know. The appraiser is confirmed. Wednesday at 10 a.m. We'll have it by then? We have to." I retreated to my room as he hung up. A few minutes later, the soft ping of a text message came from their room. Then another. Brianna's. I could almost hear her typing. "The POA is ready. Stop being soft. We have to make her agree." I closed my door, the old knob turning without a sound. My breathing was shallow, but my hands were steady. I went to my sewing chest. From the bottom, I pulled out a heavy, dark wool winter robe. Years ago, I had tailored it for a client who travelled, adding hidden, silk-lined pockets inside the sleeves and seams, places to hide jewels and cash. The client had never picked it up. I went to the filing cabinet I'd hidden in my closet. I retrieved the copies of my passport, my birth certificate, my bank books, and the original deed to the house. I slipped them, one by one, into the hidden compartments of the robe. I folded it and placed it in my travel bag, hidden beneath my sewing patterns. A lifetime of skill, suddenly repurposed for war. The feeling of being pushed out, of being erased from my own life, was a physical weight in the room. But beneath it, something new was forming, a cold, hard resolve. I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out my old phone, and opened a new text message to Evan Morales. Appraisal day confirmed. The offices of North Loop Legal were not in a high-rise tower. They were in a discreet, restored brick building on a quiet street. Ariel Novak's office was spare, organized, and sharp, just like the grey suit she wore. She did not waste time on small talk. Evan Morales sent the secured data packet, she said, her eyes already on her monitor. The original red flash drive, still in its sealed evidence bag, sat on the corner of her desk. I have reviewed the drafts. She clicked through the files I had seen only briefly at the print shop. The quitclaim deed, the power of attorney, the chilling spreadsheet titled Care Costs. I sat opposite her, my hands folded, feeling like I was at a consultation for a dress pattern, not the disassembly of my life. After several minutes of intense silence, she turned from the screen and looked at me. Her eyes were clear and direct. "Marjorie," she said, her voice devoid of pity. "Let's be precise. This is not a family misunderstanding. These documents, combined with the draft email, constitute clear evidence of attempted fiduciary elder abuse and conspiracy to commit signature fraud. They are not planning to steal your house. They are executing the plan." I expected to feel the panic I'd felt in the hallway. Instead, a cold, quiet anger settled over me. "What do we do?" "We act immediately," Ariel said, folding her hands on the desk. "We will operate on 3 tracks. Track 1, protection. This afternoon, I am filing for an ex parte temporary restraining order. A restraining order against Daniel. A financial restraining order," she clarified. "It's not about domestic violence, it's about asset protection. It will immediately freeze their ability to access your accounts, transfer your property, or proceed with any sale. It will include a strict no-contact provision regarding all financial matters. They will be legally barred from asking you to sign so much as a check." She held up a finger. "Track 2, isolation. We must cut off their access to your information and your money. Before you leave this office, my paralegal will help you open a new, private bank account at a different institution. We will redirect your pension and any Social Security deposits to that account, effective immediately. We will lock down your online access to the old accounts, and you will secure a post office box today. All your mail bank statements, legal notices, everything goes there. Your house is no longer a safe place for information." I pushed the black ledger I'd been keeping for a year across her desk. "I have been keeping records. The bills, the dates, the changes." Ariel opened it. She turned the pages slowly, seeing the photographs of my displaced furniture, the copies of the soaring utility bills stapled to the pages. A brief, appreciative nod was her only reaction. "This is your affidavit," she said. "This is the narrative that proves the intent. We will formalize this." "Now," she said. "Track 3, the appraisal." "I should cancel it," I said. "Tell them I'm sick." "Absolutely not," Ariel replied. "They believe you are confused, compliant, and losing your memory. We will use that. The appraisal on Wednesday at 10 o'clock is the trap. You will agree to the meeting. You will tell them you just want to be present or need to meet the appraiser. You will not sign anything. You will not argue. She leaned forward. Because here is what will happen. I will arrange for a sheriff's deputy and a court clerk to be at your home at 9:50 a.m. on Wednesday. They will be there to serve the TRO and, more importantly, to witness. When the appraiser arrives, and when Daniel and Brianna attempt to represent themselves as owners or fiduciaries, they will be stopped by an officer of the court. We are creating an undeniable, witnessed event of their fraudulent intent in real time. Witnesses, she continued, grabbing a legal pad. We need them for the hearing. Evan Morales is one. His time-stamped evidence is critical. Who else? My neighbor, Mr. Benson, I said immediately. He sees everything. He's seen the arguments in the driveway. He saw the staging furniture being delivered. Maybe the locksmith. The one Brianna hired to change the pantry locks. Excellent, Ariel said, scribbling. We add them to the list. They will claim I'm senile, I whispered, the word tasting like poison. The email said, she doesn't remember much. We preempt that, Ariel said, not missing a beat. Call your primary care physician as soon as you leave. Have your medical records for the last 5 years sent to my office. We need a clear, professional statement of your cognitive health. We will attach it to the filing. We will paint them as the predators, not you as the frail victim. She handed me a business card for a local locksmith. Schedule this person for Wednesday at 11 o'clock, 1 hour after the appraisal. Once the order is served, you are changing the locks on your home. I stood up, taking the card. I had walked into North Loop Legal feeling like a guest in my own life. I walked out feeling like a client. The cold Minneapolis air hit my face, but I felt anchored. I had a plan. I had a shark. And I was going to follow every single instruction. The days between that meeting and Wednesday were the longest of my life. I moved through my house like a ghost, an actor playing the part of the frail, confused woman they wanted me to be. On Monday, I found Brianna in the kitchen, tapping at her laptop. I kept my voice light, casual. Oh, Brianna, I meant to tell you. I was cleaning out my car and found a little red flash drive in the console. It had your initials on it. BK Clients. She did not look up from her screen. Oh, that. It's nothing. Marjorie. Just old memory files. Pictures of Sophie when she was a baby. I'll grab it later. She never did. It was still in the console, waiting. A lie told that easily was not a lie. It was a script. That night at the dinner table, she was energized. She was speaking to Daniel. But the performance was clearly for my benefit. I spoke to my realtor partner in Adena today, she announced, cutting into the chicken I had roasted. She has a cash-heavy client who is just desperate for a property in this exact neighborhood. They specifically love the garden, the mature landscaping. They're prepared to move very fast, maybe even close before the holidays. Before December, just as the email draft had promised. Daniel just grunted, focused on his plate. The next morning, Tuesday, an email appeared in my inbox. The subject line was stark. Urgent account security verification required. It looked exactly like my bank's logo. It claimed there had been suspicious activity on my account and that I must click the link below to verify my identity immediately, or my assets would be frozen. My heart hammered once, hard, before Ariel's training kicked in. I did not click. I forwarded it directly to her office. The reply from her paralegal came back in 20 minutes. This is a phishing attempt. Marjorie, the domain is fake. They are trying to capture your login credentials to drain the account. This is proof of active, ongoing fraud. We are adding it to the file. They were accelerating the plan. I was taking the trash out when a flash of white in the hedge caught my eye. It was a receipt from Home Depot, snagged on a branch, damp from the morning dew. It must have fallen from Daniel's pocket. It was for one item, smart lock, keypad entry. $89. They were planning to change the locks, to lock me out of my own home with a code I would not be given. I put the receipt in my pocket and walked next door. Mr. Benson was raking leaves. "Mr. Benson," I said, keeping my voice low. "I am expecting some visitors tomorrow morning, but I've been worried about some unfamiliar cars I've seen lately." He stopped raking and leaned on the handle, his eyes sharp. "The two black SUVs passed by twice yesterday, once this morning. They don't belong here. Parked across the street for 10 minutes. Just watching." "If you see them again," I asked, "could you possibly get the license plates?" "Already did," he said, tapping the side of his head. "Wrote them down. Minnesota plates. Never trust a clean SUV that lingers." When I went to my new post office box that afternoon, a single piece of mail was waiting. It was a heavy, cream-colored envelope. It was addressed to Brianna Kincaid at my address. The return address was Fresh Nest Staging and Design. I opened it. It was an invoice for Phase 1 consultation and staging for the property on Hale Avenue. They were already hiring professionals to erase me, to package my life for a quick sale. I photographed it and sent the image to Ariel. That evening, Sophie came to my room, holding her worn teddy bear. "Barnaby." "Grandma," she said, her lip trembling. "His arm is falling off." "We can't have that," I said, my voice gentle. "Bring me my sewing basket." I sat in my chair, the one they had not yet moved to the basement. Daniel's heavy winter coat, the one that always smelled of stale beer and desperation, was thrown carelessly over the rocking chair. As I reached into my basket for the strong upholstery thread, my sleeve brushed the coat. Something small and metal fell from the breast pocket, landing silently on the worn carpet. Sophie was humming to her bear, not paying attention. I bent down slowly, my back protesting. It was a small, silver key, the kind used for a filing cabinet or a private lockbox. It was stamped with a tiny letter S. I memorized the shape. I memorized the letter. I did not take it. I slipped my hand back into his pocket, pushing the key deep into the lining, past a wad of receipts. Then I turned back to my granddaughter and, with steady hands, I stitched Barnaby's arm back into place. The house was quiet that night, a heavy, suffocating silence. It was the night before the appraisal. I was in the kitchen, wiping down a counter that was already clean. When Daniel came in, he looked pale. He did not speak. He just walked to the kitchen island and placed a thick navy blue folder on the granite. The label, printed in Brianna's sharp, clear script, read, "P.O. Final." "Mum," he said, his voice thick. He could not look at me. We really need to get this signed in the morning, before the appraiser gets here at 10. It's just a formality. For the bank." I looked at the folder, the physical copy of the document designed to end my life as I knew it. "Leave it there. Daniel," I said, my voice flat, cold. "I'll look at it after my coffee." Wednesday morning. The house was tight with an awful, expectant silence. The navy blue POA Final folder sat on the kitchen island like a bomb. Brianna was buzzing, refilling her coffee cup every 10 minutes, checking her phone. Daniel was a grey shadow, pacing between the dining room and the living room window, waiting for 10 o'clock. "He's here," Brianna said, a note of triumph in her voice as she looked through the blinds. "No. Wait. Who is this?" The doorbell rang at precisely 9:40 a.m. Daniel, eager to get the signing over with, pulled the door open. It was not the appraiser. It was Ariel Novak, flanked by a Hennepin County Sheriff's deputy in a crisp uniform and another man in a dark suit carrying a briefcase. "What is this?" Brianna snapped, moving to block the doorway. "You can't be here. This is private property." "I am here on behalf of the owner, Marjorie Hale," Ariel said, her voice cutting through the tension. She stepped past Brianna, who was too stunned to stop her. The deputy and the clerk followed. They stood in my entryway. "Mom," Daniel said, his voice cracking. "What is this? Who are these people?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang again. It was 10 o'clock on the dot. A man with a clipboard and a woman in a realtor's blazer were on the doorstep. Daniel, desperate to regain control, turned to them with a shaky, oversized smile. "Come in? Come in. Thanks for being so prompt. I'm Daniel Hale, the co-owner. We're just handling some family business." "No," Ariel said, her voice stopping everyone. She held up a folded, court-stamped document. "This is a temporary restraining order, signed by Judge Karras this morning. It is effective immediately." She handed a copy to Daniel, who just stared at it. She handed one to Brianna. "This order," Ariel announced, "prohibits any transaction, sale, appraisal, or transfer of the property at this address. It freezes all joint accounts and bars Daniel Hale and Brianna Kincaid from accessing or attempting to access any financial accounts held solely by Marjorie Hale. It further orders you to cease and desist all contact with Marjorie Hale regarding financial matters, effective immediately. The scheduled appraisal is cancelled. You," she said to the appraiser and the realtor, "must leave." Brianna's face turned a dark, mottled red. "This is insane. You can't do this. She's my mother-in-law. She's forgetful. She's confused. I manage her affairs for her benefit." The man in the suit stepped forward. "Ma'am, I am a clerk with the district court. The court has received and certified a statement of full cognitive capacity for Marjorie Hale from her physician, dated yesterday. We have also verified that all bank accounts, save one joint checking account, and the title for this property are in the sole, unencumbered name of Marjorie Hale. The documents prove—" Brianna was shouting now, fumbling for the navy blue folder on the counter. "Yes, the documents," Ariel said. "We have them." She signaled to the deputy, who opened the front door again. Evan Morales walked in. He was holding a sealed manila envelope. "I am Evan Morales," he said to the clerk. "I am here under subpoena. I can confirm that the digital files, including draft quitclaim deeds, a power of attorney, and spreadsheets of fabricated care costs, were accessed on my business terminal from this flash drive. I personally time-stamped screenshots of the file metadata last Saturday." Ariel took a clear plastic evidence bag from her briefcase. Inside it was the small, bright red flash drive. "BK clients." Daniel made a sound, a sharp intake of breath. The colour drained from his face. He stared at the red drive. He knew, in that instant, that I had found it. He knew that I knew. The appraiser and the realtor had already backed out onto the porch. Brianna was speechless, her mouth open. the navy blue folder clutched to her chest. The deputy stepped forward. "This is now a civil matter under court supervision. The order stands. A hearing has been set for 2 o'clock this afternoon to make the order permanent. You will receive a summons. Until then, the court orders you to maintain the status quo. You may not remove any property. You will wait for the hearing." They stood frozen in my living room, the living room they had staged for a quick sale. The air was dead, all their momentum gone. I turned away from them. I looked out the living room window, past the porch, to my garden. The garden where they had held their parties, where they had laughed about my mother-in-law's house. It was quiet out there. The sun was hitting the old oak tree, and for the first time in 3 years, I was not afraid. I just waited, silent. The hearing at 2 o'clock was not in a grand chamber. It was in a small, windowless, functional room that smelled of disinfectant and old coffee. Judge Karras looked exhausted, but her eyes were sharp. Daniel and Brianna sat at the far table, a hasty, court-appointed lawyer wedged between them. Brianna was called to testify, first regarding the temporary restraining order. Her transformation was remarkable. The rage from the morning was gone, replaced by the carefully constructed performance of a worried, misunderstood caregiver. She dabbed at dry eyes with a tissue. We were just worried," she testified, her voice thick. "Marjorie has been so forgetful lately. The documents, those were just templates, things I downloaded from the internet just in case we needed them. We never used them. We would never do that." Ariel, my lawyer, stood motionless. "So the file labeled POA Final was just a draft internet research?" "Yes," Brianna said, nodding eagerly. "Just planning, that's all. We love Marjorie. We were just trying to be prepared." "Prepared to sell her house before December?" Ariel asked, her voice like ice. She didn't wait for an answer. She placed the printout of the draft email on the court projector. Prepared to tell her the doctor's orders to get her to sign. Prepared to fabricate these. She swapped the page for the care costs spreadsheet. To justify liquidating her assets. Brianna stammered. That was just an estimate. A hypothetical." "Let's talk about hypotheticals," Ariel said. She turned to the realtor, who had been subpoenaed and was sitting in the back, looking pale. "Ms. Vance, when you were retained to appraise my client's home, what documentation were you provided by Ms. Kincaid?" This was the first twist. The realtor, under oath, spoke reluctantly. She provided us with a notarized power of attorney. It looked legitimate. It gave her full authority to act on Ms. Hale's behalf. The public defender sat up. "Your Honor, this proves it. The POA was in place. This is just a misunderstanding. They had the authority." Ariel did not even look at him. "Your Honor, we anticipated this. We have a copy of the POA provided to the realtor." An image of the document flashed on the screen. My name, a forged signature, and a notary stamp. The stamp, Ariel pointed, is from a photocopy shop in a suburb 30 miles away. It's dated last Saturday. The court clerk, the same man who had been at my house, stepped forward with a file. This was the second twist. "Your Honor," the clerk said, addressing the judge, "at Ms. Novak's request, we ran the notary commission number on that stamp. The number is valid. It belongs to a mobile notary." "So it's real?" the judge asked. "The number is real, Your Honor. the clerk said. The stamp is a forgery. The notary whose commission number was stolen filed a police report last week. His mobile equipment, including his stamp, was stolen from his vehicle. We then cross-referenced sales of custom notary stamps online. Ariel placed another document on the projector. An invoice. This counterfeit stamp, she said, was purchased from an online vendor, paid for by Miss Kincaid's credit card, and delivered to her new post office box 3 days ago. The room was silent. Brianna was staring at the invoice, her mask of sorrow shattered, replaced by a cold, hard glare. Evan Morales was called. His testimony was brief, precise. He provided his store's surveillance logs and the scanner data. Ms. Kincaid did not print anything that day, Evan said, looking at the judge. She used our high-resolution scanner. She scanned an old Medicare card belonging to Ms. Hale. She said it was to make a new layout. The file data shows she was capturing the signature. The fake signature. The stolen notary number. The counterfeit stamp. The plan was complete. Your Honor. Daniel suddenly lurched to his feet, pushing his chair back. His appointed lawyer tried to grab his arm. Wait, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about the stamp. I swear. I thought it was just a formality. To protect her. The money. He turned, his eyes wild, searching for me. Mum, I thought, we were just protecting you. I had not moved. I had not cried. I looked at my son, the man who had sat in my kitchen and lied to my face, the man who had let his wife draft the end of my independence. He saw my expression. He saw the cold, clear absence of the mother he expected to save him. I looked directly at him. I did not weep. I did not shout. I said, my voice carrying in the quiet room. I saw everything. Judge Karras struck her gavel. This is far beyond a family misunderstanding. The evidence presented suggests a coordinated, criminal effort to defraud. She looked at Ariel, then at me. The temporary restraining order is extended. A full hearing is scheduled in 2 weeks. All asset transfers are frozen. I am authorizing the seizure of all computers and devices used to draft these documents. She turned to Daniel and Brianna. And this court grants Marjorie Hale temporary sole possession of her home. You will vacate the premises by 5 p.m. today. The 2 weeks that followed were a cold, quiet blur of preparation. The house was mine again, but it felt sterile, scrubbed clean of the last 3 years. The silence was heavy. Daniel and Brianna had moved into a weekly rate motel, their summons served, their assets frozen. But the work was not over. Ariel was not just defending. She was building an offensive case. She hired a civil investigator, a former police detective, who moved with terrifying efficiency. The mobile notary Brianna impersonated, he's furious. Ariel told me over the phone. He's testifying for us. Of course. But the investigator also traced the purchase of the counterfeit stamp. It was bought from an overseas website using a prepaid debit card, shipped to a Dropbox. Brianna wasn't just downloading templates. She was building a fraud kit. The investigator also pulled surveillance footage from the cameras on the street. Your neighbor's camera caught it all, Ariel said. We have footage of Brianna carrying Fresh Nest staging boxes into your home 2 weeks ago. Better yet, it shows her on the porch, taking before and after photos and sending them via Signal to an unknown number. She was pre-selling your house. Then there was the matter of my son. His public defender called Ariel, proposing a deal. Daniel. it turned out, was drowning in online gambling debts, on top of his drinking. He was willing to enter a recovery program and testify against Brianna in exchange for leniency. "We are not making a deal," Ariel told me firmly. "However, I have invited him to be assessed by a counselor. We are showing the court that his addiction is a factor, but," and her voice was steel, "it does not mitigate the conspiracy. This does not grant him immunity. It just frames his role." My only concern was Sophie. I would not have her suffer for the sins of her parents. I called Daniel at the motel. "Sophie will be at Mr. Benson's house on Tuesday and Thursday after school, from 4 to 6. You can see her there. You will not bring Brianna. You will not discuss the case. You will only be a father." "Mom." His voice was a broken, thin thing. 4 to 6, I said, and hung up. I spent those afternoons at Mr. Benson's, sitting in his kitchen, drinking tea, while Sophie and Daniel did homework in the living room. I kept my presence neutral, a silent, necessary guardian. Mr. Benson, for his part, proved to be the best witness I could have asked for. He handed Ariel a small, neat piece of paper. "The plates from those black SUVs," he said. "The ones that were watching." The investigator ran them. "They're registered to a shell corporation," Ariel reported, a grim satisfaction in her voice. "A corporation that has been sued twice in St. Paul for predatory equity stripping. They rescue homes from foreclosure by buying them for pennies, often using fraudulent documents. Brianna wasn't just selling the house. She was selling it to sharks who knew exactly how she was getting it. The day before the final hearing, Ariel called me, Evan, and Mr. Benson into her office. It looked like a war room. Ariel had prepared a massive, 6-foot-long timeline of events. Evan, using his print shop's largest plotter, had printed it. It was a masterpiece of evidence. Every event was on a color-coded tag. Green tags for bank activity, the cessation of Daniel's contributions, my increased withdrawals. Yellow tags for property, changes the Home Depot receipt for the smart lock, the fresh nest staging invoice. Red tags for fraud, the file creation dates on the flash drive, the online purchase of the counterfeit stamp, the text messages from Daniel's phone, the signal messages from Brianna's. "We are preparing for cross-examination," Ariel said. "We have the realtor, who will testify she was given a fraudulent POA. We have the real mobile notary, who will testify his stamp was stolen. We have your bank representative, who will confirm there was never, at any time, a consultation about you granting power of attorney." She turned to me. "They will try to paint you as vengeful, or as confused. Your testimony is the anchor. We will be brief, and we will be absolute." We rehearsed it. Just my statement. Ariel's questions were simple, and my answers were shorter. I practiced the 3 themes, the 3 pillars of my truth, over and over. My cognitive capacity is sound. I am the sole owner of my home. I was coerced, and I never gave consent. I went home, my statement echoing in the quiet house. I was no longer a victim waiting for an appraisal. I was a witness, preparing for a reckoning. The main hearing room was packed. Mr. Benson was there. Evan was there. The real mobile notary was there. Brianna, now with a new, more expensive lawyer, had pivoted her entire defense. The "I just downloaded templates" lie was gone, replaced by a more insidious one. "Marjorie is a proud woman," Brianna testified, her voice flowing with practiced sympathy. "She wanted our help. but she was too embarrassed to ask. She told me to handle things. She volunteered to sign the documents to make her life easier, so we could manage her care. Her lawyer droned on. This is a case of caregiver burnout, Your Honor. My client was doing her best, and now she is being punished for it. Ariel stood up. She did not cross-examine. She simply said, Your Honor, the plaintiff has new evidence, recovered from the seized devices, directly related to this claim of voluntary consent. The court clerk dimmed the lights. A large screen flickered to life. This file was recovered from Ms. Kincaid's tablet, Ariel said. The file is named SIG Practice Move. The video began. It was a screen recording of a drawing application. On one side of the screen was a high-resolution image of my signature, the one Evan had identified from my scanned Medicare card. On the other side, a stylus was, again and again, digitally tracing my name. It was Brianna's hand, practicing, forging. The strokes were clumsy at first, then became more confident, more fluid. She practiced it for over 20 minutes. Brianna's lawyer was on his feet, objecting. But the judge waved him into silence, her eyes fixed on the screen. The video was irrefutable. It was not caregiving. It was forgery. Ariel moved to the witnesses. The realtor, Ms. Vance, was recalled. Ms. Vance? Were you offered a bonus to complete this sale? The realtor, looking at the floor, admitted. I was offered an advance on my commission, $10,000, if the property closed before the end of the month. Next, the bank employee. Did Marjorie Hale ever consult with you, or anyone at your branch, about a power of attorney? No, ma'am. We have no record of any such consultation. And, he added, the email she received, it was a spoofed domain, a phishing attack. It did not originate from our servers. Finally, the civil investigator. He placed the counterfeit notary stamp, now in an evidence bag, on the stand. The stamp was purchased from an e-commerce site, as we established. The serial number on the counterfeit, 1884B, was a direct match for an image found in Miss Kincaid's phone photo gallery. A memo photo she took of the real notary's stamp when he was at her previous apartment complex, notarizing a car title 2 years ago. She had been planning this for years. All eyes turned to Daniel. He was a wreck, shaking at the table. The judge looked at him. Mr. Hale? You have heard the testimony. You have seen the video. You are under oath. Did you know about this plan? Daniel looked at Brianna, then at me, then at the judge. He was trapped. I knew, he whispered, his voice breaking. I knew she was planning. I didn't stop it. I couldn't. The debts. Ariel Novak stood to deliver her summary. She looked at Brianna, then at Daniel, then at the judge. This is not a family misunderstanding, she said, her voice clear and final. This is not caregiver burnout. This is a family-run conspiracy for elder exploitation. It was a methodical, multi-year plan to steal a woman's home, built on lies, forgery, and intimidation. The judge looked at me. Ms. Hale, do you wish to make a statement? I stood. I did not lean on the table. My hands were steady at my sides. I looked only at the judge. For 90 seconds, Your Honor. Thank you. I took a breath. I am 62 years old. I am in full command of my mind and my health. I am the sole owner of my home. I did not ask for help. I was not confused. I did not volunteer. I did not consent to a power of attorney. And I am not, nor will I ever be, signing to sell my home. They lied, they stole, and they were caught. That is all. The courtroom was utterly silent. The judge stared at the file in front of her for a long time. Finally, she looked up. I have heard the testimony and seen the evidence. I will render my judgment at the end of the day. The judgment was read at 4:30 p.m. Judge Karras was swift and absolute. First, I, Marjorie Hale, was affirmed as the sole rightful owner of the property on Hale Avenue. Second, all draft documents, the quitclaim deed, the power of attorney were declared null, void, and evidence of fraud. Third, a 1-year ban was placed on all transactions related to the property. Fourth, a permanent protective order was granted, barring Brianna Kincaid from my home, my assets, and my presence. Fifth, Daniel was ordered into a mandatory recovery program for his addictions and was made liable for all my legal costs and fees. And finally, Judge Karras referred the entire case file, the forged notary stamp, the SIG practice move video, the conspiracy with the predatory buyers to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation into Brianna Kincaid. The fallout was immediate. The realtor, Ms. Vance, faced a state ethics board and had her license suspended. The network of shell companies that had been waiting to buy my house was placed under state surveillance. The first thing I did was call the locksmith. That evening, I stood on my porch as he replaced every lock, including the new smart lock Daniel had bought. He handed me a single, new, silver key. The next day, I began to reclaim my space. I called a donation service. They hauled away the cold, grey staging furniture Brianna had rented. I went to the basement and, with Mr. Benson's help, I brought my own things back, my comfortable armchair, my sewing table. I moved from the small guest room back into my master bedroom. I walked to the wall where my wedding photograph used to hang, the wall Brianna had covered with a large, generic, abstract print. I took the print down. I found the old nail hole. I hung the picture of my husband and me back in its rightful place. Life had to find a new normal, especially for Sophie. I arranged it through Mr. Benson's wife. Sophie was dropped off for dinner every Wednesday by a neutral family friend. We sat at my kitchen table, just the two of us. We talked about her school. We talked about her new spelling words. We talked about what to plant in the garden next spring. We never, not once, spoke of the trial or her parents. She was safe in this house. That was all that mattered. Daniel came by one evening, a week later. He did not try the new lock. He just stood on the front porch, in the dark. I spoke to him through the screen door. He looked thin, older. He didn't make excuses. He didn't ask for money. He just stood there for a long time, looking at his feet. "I will pay," he said, his voice just a whisper. "The money? For the lawyers? I will pay it all back." I looked at him, my son, a stranger on my doorstep. "Do it, Daniel," I said. "Don't say it. Just do it." He nodded once and walked away. That weekend, Evan Morales, the man who started it all, stopped by. He didn't stay long. He just handed me a thick, sealed envelope from his print shop. "What's this?" I asked. "It's a complete, printed copy of everything," he said. "The timeline, the bank records, the video stills, the court transcripts. It's all there. Bound. Thank you, Evan. But the trial is over." "I know," he said. "This is for you. So you can sleep, knowing it's all real, it's all documented, and it's all done. I took the envelope. That night, I didn't read it. I didn't need to. I put it on my desk. I walked through my home, a home that was finally, truly, mine again. I checked the new deadbolt on the front door. I turned the lock. It clicked. A solid, satisfying sound. I pressed my palm flat against the warm, solid wood of the door. The house was quiet. It was not the silence of fear, or the tense, waiting silence of the past 3 years. It was the silence of ownership, returned. Thank you for listening to my story. Please comment and let us know where you are listening from, and share your thoughts. We invite you to subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and support us by hitting that hype button so this story can be heard by more people.